How to read a museum wall card. How to read a museum wall card. Tips and advice for beginners. You do not have to read every label, as it is optional. So most questions that museum visitors want answered can be found on the museum wall card. So, what exactly is a museum wall card? It is a type of label used in museums. This will answer some common questions about the art. Questions such as, who is the artist? When was it painted? What is it made out of? What is going on in the scene? When was something made? Was this a gift? Is it on loan? Does the museum own this? Is it paint on canvas? The example I will use today comes from the Metropolitan in New York City. It is only part of a much larger artwork. The first thing we see is the title of the art. Does it have a title? Not all artwork does. Sometimes the title is unknown, or the artist never gave it one. Second, we see when it was made. Sometimes the date of the art is known, sometimes not. If the approximate date is known, it will say so via being circa. When was it made? If there is a date, it will say so or give a good idea as when the experts believe it was created. Third is who made the art. What is the culture that created this artwork? In older civilizations, the creator of the artwork is not always known, although some, in Egypt for example, are an exception, like the architect Imhotep. In more modern times, like the Renaissance, we know who the artist is. The further you move up the modern timeline, the better chance we have of knowing the artist and their work being signed. The fourth question is, what is it made out of? We call this art term a medium. The medium can vary depending on what the art is made out of. Marble, for example, can be just one material. This wall painting fragment is painted on stone with plaster mixed with paint. That is how you make a fresco. Fifth, we ask, and may or may not see on the wall label, the dimensions of the art. How big is the artwork? In most cases, I feel that the measurement of the art is left off the label. It depends on the individual museum, though. Is this art a painting, a sculpture, a book, or a piece of clothing? Sixth, we ask or read, what is the classification of the art? That is usually the first thing we see about art. Is it a room full of paintings? What space is it in? A home or a museum? Finally, we're about to get to the last two items on the wall card. These last two things may or may not be on the wall card at all. How did the museum obtain the art? To whom is the credit given? If it is on loan, it's just visiting for a time. If it's not part of the museum's permanent collection, meaning it's there all the time, this is the work of art on loan. There may also be information on the wall card regarding whether or not the artwork is on loan. If it is, it's not owned by the museum and is currently owned by another museum. So when you see something stating that the artwork is on loan, know that the museum has borrowed it. This is the seventh item on the label. Who gets the credit for this work of art being in a museum? Is it from a private collector? Was this a donation? Does the museum own this one? Is it something from their storage? The object number or accession number is the final and eighth thing on the card. You might wonder in what year a museum attained a particular work of art. When did the museum acquire it? Look for the accession or object number. It will be on the very last line of the card. This is a special number that indicates within a given year the number of pieces of art the museum has purchased. In addition, that number of the year for the art you are currently looking at, for example, the number may also change if it is on loan. It might also tell you how many works of art in the year, say 1992, for example, that the museum has collected. This is just a brief overview of the accession number. Now let's look at a real setting of a museum with artwork and the wall card next to them. This photo is an example of a real art exhibition in Amsterdam at the Van Gogh Museum. This picture is a special collaboration between Pokémon and the Van Gogh Museum. Van Gogh's iconic style pairs well with the Pokémon from pop culture. Next to each painting or artwork is a wall card. Attached to the yellow wall card is what seems to be a small image of cardstock of the original painting that inspired the collaboration. Please note that this is done with the collaboration of the Van Gogh Museum and Pokémon. This is a great example of pop culture getting people out of the house. It makes museums fun for beginners. The characters are easy to recognize. That's why knowing what a museum wall card is and how to read one can be helpful. So keep an eye out for them next time you visit a museum. Art museums made simple. You might like this video next. See my website on more tips for museums.